Oh, I knew I forgot to do something. I'm sitting here waiting and just listening to the music. Hang on just a second. Hang on. There we go. No dilly, no dally zone. Welcome to, let's see. So, Dream, this is not quite comedians with coffee in cars, but we've got to come up with a title. John in a car, in a parking deck, Dream on his back deck.
Just goofballs in the wild, I think, in general.
Working title, Goofballs in the Wild on a Wednesday here. Soccer's in Session Live, presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Kaiser Permanente for all that is you. And we're talking GHSA championships because we actually have some that have been named. We have more that are going to be named as we go. Mateen Rad right there on that side of the screen as I'm sitting here looking at it. And Mateen was busy yesterday, and we had Mateen on to discuss the matchups that he was going to be calling. And now that he has called them, it is time to catch up with Class A and find out what happened yesterday. So, Dream, break it down. What was it like in there to see a couple of champs get named?
Well, first it started with the girls, Paideia against Social Circle. That game ended 8-1 in favor of the Pythons. And, John, that was my first chance to get to see Paideia up close. Well, as close as you can get at McEachern in that press box up there. I felt like I was in the room with God up there. And, I call a lot of D3 games. You don't want to get too grandiose, but seeing the way they play, John, they're extremely a confident team. They play and pass out the back like a D1 program. They're filled with club players. I've seen a lot of D3 programs, and I could say, I feel like in a span of 10 matches, if you put up this high school team against some of these lower ranked D3 teams, Paideia is going to get a win out of one of those games, I think. They just feel like a big girl team, really. And Social Circle saw that firsthand last night, and so much of it was to do with the play of their forward line. Olivia Colby, everybody had Eva Jean Young circled on their roster, and she did end up scoring 2 goals. But Olivia Colby, she really was so impressive, so short with her dribble. That ball was always so close to her feet, and scored 4 goals in the contest. She was our Uber Teen player of the game, and with great reason. Social Circle, still a younger team. Obviously, they're going to be losing their star striker in Peyton Brooks to Truett McConnell next year. So I think they'll be back. But Paideia, their first championship in 11 years, and they might be hungry for more in the years to come.
When it comes to trying to clamp down on someone like Peyton, who's north of 50 goals, north of 25 assists, how did they pull that off? Was it basically, we're going to make sure that Peyton doesn't beat us and we'll let everybody else beat us? What was the philosophy going in for Paideia?
Honestly, I think you could see what happened. Peyton started to get a little more freedom later on in the game when she moved out to the wing. As she was moving centrally and trying to drive through the 2 defenders throughout the game, she had a lot less freedom, and Paideia was really able to work freely, keep the ball away from her. For the Pythons, that was the name of the game, just having more of the ball, the lion's share of possession. And as they were so confident, passing from the goalkeeper into the back line, into the midfield, into the forwards, they were really more than anything able to just frustrate Peyton Brooks and deprive her of the service that she needed to make an impact in the match. When she moved out to that left wing and had only 1 defender to deal with instead of 2, she was able to have a little bit more freedom, but still not enough to try and bring some of her fellow forwards into the game and try to create.
One of the other things that I know that we've been discussing as we go is the fan support in these kinds of situations. So from a Social Circle perspective, how many folks hit I-20, went from one side of I-20 to the other and made it there to Cantrell? What was it like?
A ton of Social Circle fans came out. And, it really felt like they were behind their team the whole way until the final whistle, even when it felt like, a foregone conclusion to a lot of respects. Even 8-1 down, you still hear Redskin fans going crazy, but you got to tip your hats off too. Paideia Python fans had 2 games to show up for that night, and their fans showed up in double with that regard as well.
You're reading my notes here. So that sounds like a transitional element. So I think that what we'll do is we'll do that and go to the second match of the night. Paideia tried to chase the daily double against Atlanta International. And when we talked about it yesterday, you laid it all out there about how tough AIS could be and what Paideia was going up against. And it ended up being AIS by the end of the night.
You bring up the word chase, John, and it felt like that's what Paideia was trying to do most of that game, really. It felt like they just didn't have the fire, the sting that they were looking for in that game. And I think a lot of it was to do, they felt hard done by some referee calls. As a commentator, as good as I do, John, you don't want to try and bring out these, let's call them referee errors, for lack of a better word,
Right.
out to the spotlight. But you could argue that both goals shouldn't have counted in that 2-0 win for AIS. The first goal, which was basically headed right on the goal line in by our player of the game, Antoine Jacob, who was down on all fours, got his head to the ball, but was clearly offside from everybody in the press box, up a mile high up there. And but the other one, it was a goal scored, and it was a great goal scored by Nico de Kuffel from a good distance, but it started with a drive through the midfield that was touched down with a handball, something that everybody, again, in that high press box could see. The referees missed it. Paideia fans knew it, and they let their distaste be known for 80 minutes.
Was it a layout there at McEachern where you had a center ref and 2 ARs, or was it 2 refs, 1 on each side?
It was a center ref and 2 ARs.
Okay, because sometimes not knowing that layout, sometimes if you're in a situation where you've got 2 refs and each is taking an opposite half, sometimes you miss something that might be happening opposite you that you could see otherwise if you had a center ref and 2 ARs. But when you look at your 2 champions that you got to catch up with there at McEachern, what else, now that you've had the sum total of 16 hours to digest both of these title games, you mentioned how Social Circle, they're Coach Richardson, you anticipate them coming back and making another deep run. You anticipate, I imagine, Paideia on both sides going 1 for 2, but you imagine Paideia is going to be coming back for chasing more championships. AIS obviously wants to follow up what they did. With these 4 teams that you saw there at McEachern, what else sticks in your mind that may not necessarily be titles match attached, but what else sticks in your mind?
John, a theme that sticks out in my mind, covering MLS closely about a year and a half ago, the theme at that point was it felt like teams that didn't have the ball were tending to win more games at that point. You take a look at teams and setups like the New York Red Bulls. At that time, they were winning games despite having like 30% of the ball in a game. That trend has since died down. You're starting to see more like a Columbus Crew type. And maybe that's starting to rub off on these teams that are at the top of Class A Div 1, because the 2 teams that won out in these 2 championship games were teams that were hungry for the ball. We want to pass out the back. We want to have fluidity in our attack. We want to start with the ball at our goalkeeper, through the back line, through the midfield, through the forward line. And we want to do so. And if we lose the ball, we have to get it back immediately. I think that was the difference maker. And also 2 teams that absolutely seemed physically completely up to the task the whole time. It felt like the 2 teams that didn't get tired were the 2 teams that won, and ultimately that's why Paideia are your girls champs and AIS are your boys champs.
All right, so what's next in line for you after those matches at McEachern? What's next in Dreamland? What's going on?
No soccer for the rest of this week, but I'm heading up to Macon on Saturday to cover the GHSA track championships. And Justin Hanover, our good mutual friend who we called the game with last night, he'll be heading up there too for the baseball championships. So it's already a busy week for Justin too. So
Yes.
it was great to call a game with him, our mutual friend from AU2 days, and looking forward to, a busy end to the sports season here.
No doubt about it. So before you go, I have another visitor. Maddie Cruz on the 1s and 2s wanted to come by, and she's next with Luke Winstall, but I figured I would go ahead and add Maddie to the mix and turn it into a three-way dance because, Maddie tomorrow, something is happening with Maddie, over at Kennesaw. I don't know specifically.
Hootie hoo.
Hootie hoo, baby.
But yeah, so Maddie is going to be being handed a sheet of paper. The parchment is going to be handed to Maddie tomorrow. So we figured we would catch up with her today because you never know what's going to happen. But I figured I would share the hootie hoo-ness with the two of you before we do the handoff and Luke Winstall and Maddie Cruz talk about their matchups coming up in short order.
Hi, Mateen.
Hi, Maddie. Look, Maddie has already been theoretically, psychologically been handed that diploma anyway with her hard work with KSU Owl Network, and now she's doing the same thing with you guys at Soccer Down Here. So she's already taken that next step. She's just getting handed the piece of paper tomorrow, but very happy and very proud to share the stage with a fellow Owl.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Thank you, Mateen. Listen, I was saying, because I know we got to do that KSU women's soccer game last year, but I was like, dang, they couldn't have put us together for the championship too. We got 2 Owls on the call.
It's always great to have, two Owls on the call. And, last night I had to deal with an Emory Eagle who knows he's smarter than me.
Wow.
Don't
Dropping
worry.
the hammer.
Hats off to Justin Hanover. He is smarter than me.
It will happen. We'll have to talk to Nolan and be like, listen, you got to put us on.
Hey, there's plenty of state championships in the future.
Listen,
hopefully plenty of KSU games in the future.
Absolutely.
Well, and you just have to go with Nolan. You got to go, bruh. Hey, let's get it all hooked up. Dream, it's always great to see you, and thanks for dropping by here on Soccer's in Session Live. Go grab some lunch, catch your breath, and go enjoy track and field this weekend, and we'll catch up with you soon, my friend. Be well.
John, Maddie, lots of love to both of you guys. Maddie, congratulations. Looking forward to a lot of big things for you.
All right. So love you, dude. Be good. And so there goes Mateen. So Luke Winstall hopefully coming in short order to help out here as Maddie Cruz is on the 1s and 2s. But since Maddie was not on the morning show, we have to kind of discuss things a little bit morning showish here.
Let's do it.
Last night, Atlanta United 2 and Charlotte Independence go at it in U.S. Open Cup. Took a little while, considering Charlotte wanted to have 38 players behind the ball. And it ends up goal 6 minutes into the second half, and that opens it up. Nick Firmino with a brace. Daniel Rios with the third. Atlanta United gets the win in U.S. Open Cup. Your thoughts from hanging out with Bart Keeler and the Soccer for U.S. POD folks and a lot of the 17s. What was it like in the crowd last night?
It was fun. It was fun. Tactically too, I think Gonzalo said it best in that press conference. It was really difficult. Charlotte was playing in that 5-4-1. They were very compact. So it was hard to really get into it. And I feel like Firmino and Rios talked about it too. It was very difficult to find any access point or to get even into the goal. And I think Nick Firmino, I'm glad that he finally got those 2 goals on the board. The entire season, at least for the 2s, what we have seen, he has been an inch away from getting behind the net. And I'm glad that he was able to get something there. And hey, listen, he might be joining the likes of Brandon Vasquez and Dom Dwyer as Open Cup heroes here very shortly. But it was really fun getting to be in the stands. It was fun. I haven't been in the stands in a while. So, especially at Fifth Third. Fifth Third is such an intimate type of field, especially for soccer, you get to hear a lot more of what's going on. And I really love that. I think it's a really cool feeling. And it was fun getting to hang out with Bart. I hadn't actually gotten to sit down and watch a game with Bart. So that was a lot of fun. And it was great. It was a fun night last night. And also, hey, all the 17s got to see what KSU was like. So, listen, Fifth Third Stadium, don't second guess it. We vibe. We have a good time here. Okay.
Yeah, you do have a good time with your action at the Fraction, and that's going to continue tonight with Atlanta United too. Now that the band is all here, we go back to the three-way dance. Luke Winstel and Luke and Maddie are going to be calling matches. Last I heard, anyway. So,
who knows?
So let me go ladies first.
Okay.
What has study hall been like getting ready for these matchups here this afternoon and tonight?
I mean, honestly, at least from what I'm looking at, you have 3 teams in both Toombs, Model, and Mount Perrin. It's their first ever time being in the state championship in history, in program history for a lot of these teams. Toombs and Model, that one is going to be a very interesting matchup because both of them, it's their first time ever being there. You know, we found out with Model after we finished the River Ridge match, we got told by the AD that was huge. Toombs as well. And then you also have Fellowship Christian who's coming in against Mount Perrin trying to reclaim their championship spot. They're trying to be back-to-back champions once again, as they did it last year. And I mean, it's fun. I'm excited for it. I think out of every single one of these matchups are very different because of the new faces that you're seeing in the final. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. At least that's what I was looking at.
So, Luke, what's study hall been like for you getting ready for all these new faces?
Yeah, just been like this right here, getting all the notes printed out and just got them hot off the press here. And the thing to me that I'm looking at, I'm interested with both games. We've got with Mount Perrin a ridiculously good offense, over 100 goals this season. So I'm looking to see how that translates. They ran through region play at just a ridiculous pace. I think that, region differential is plus 60. And then the boys game, I'm looking for Model to be a team that really presses a good bit, and then Toombs County, one that wants to hold possession. So a bit of a battle of a couple of different styles. Who will be able to hold and have that possession, and can Model speed things up and make Toombs County uncomfortable, put them in a position where they haven't been very often. So those are some of the things that I'm interested in.
Maddie, when it comes to your homework, what does your gut tell you about these matchups? Are you thinking it's going to be high-scoring stuff, low-scoring grinders? What are you looking at?
Well, I mean, I think Luke put it best, at least with Model. I expect it, Model and Toombs especially, I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game. I don't think that's going to be one where it's going to sit like that. I think it might be one of those things where it's like a 4-3 or a 3-3 or something like that. I would not anticipate that not being the issue. I think for the girls will be very interesting. I think because for the girls, you have a lot of different talent with Fellowship Christian. I mean, looking at it, you have 8.8 goals in the whole journey of their state playoff run. I mean, that's crazy in itself. Multiple double-digit goal scorers for Fellowship Christian as well. And then you're also looking at Mount Perrin and Sarah Schwartz. I mean, having over 133 career goals for the high school, which from what the coach said is shattered every scoring record at that school and probably won't be broken anytime soon. His words, not mine. He said it. But I mean, I think that's just so crazy. Like it's going to be very high scoring, I think, on both sides. I'm interested to see how it kind of shapes out. And especially with Luke was saying too, the different styles of play that you kind of have, one holding a little bit more of possession and the other one really capitalizing on the mistakes where it comes from that possession, maybe a loose turnover or a not so great pass. I'm interested to see how that really shapes out because it's going to be fun. I'm so excited.
See, and Luke, you are intimately familiar with Five Star. And you know what that surface is. You know what it's going to be like. Let's go intangibles here. Let's go topic number 5. Turf surface, these schools, meteorology, I'll say weather. How about that? Instead of meteorology. Like you said, you got to catch up with our boy Ben Jones and see what it's going to be like when it comes to being in this neutral environment. Any vibe coming from you and your aura about how you think these 4 teams are going to respond?
One thing that I noticed in the games yesterday, a lot of players that have played on grass are expecting balls to come off the turf and maybe hit them in the chest area, but it's very common for some of these long balls, some punts from the goalies, that you get lined up, it takes a bounce and it goes straight over a player's head. We saw that a few times. You got to take a second to adjust at Five Star. There's certain things like Mercer Soccer plays over at Bet Stadium, and they did play. The men's team played a couple of years ago, one game in 5-star, and it was just one of those like comparing seeing them at Betts and then at 5-star. The surfaces are so different. Betts is that soft grass, a little heavier play. So with 5-star, that's something to expect. Is you're going to see some misjudged balls. Maybe a couple of times players look a little silly, and they'll get used to it. They'll settle it down, but something to expect. Also, we did have water breaks in the game yesterday at the 20-minute mark. I don't mind that at all. Even in the night game, the humidity, they established a water break in the first half, so did it there in the second as well. So something we can expect with a steamy kind of game. It's on the turf, and Jessica's saying 10 degrees hotter on the turf. I think that's the rule of thumb. So those are things to look for. Of course, wear your sunscreen. The sun's coming right at us. So that's, as I say, sunscreen, bring a tent. If you're GMC, you bring a pirate flag. All the accessories are going, and it's a great way to enjoy the day.
Luke's already told me to bring the sunscreen. I have it in my bag. I'm ready to go.
I told everybody. I was like, everybody, got to wear it, especially, if you burn easy.
You beat me to it asking about the sunscreen and all of the other elements that are attached to it. Maddie, I'll ask you first and then Luke follow up. Any idea about the vibes on campus when it comes to these 4 schools, about how many folks are coming? What does it mean if they win the last match of the year? Maddie, let me start with you. What info have you been able to glean when it comes to the emotion attached to these matches?
I mean, at least for Toombs, what I've been looking at, which, I mean, if you guys want a great read for an article, actually, Jason sent me this last night after the Atlanta United match. But it's an article written by WJCL Preston Harvey, and it's about Toombs and just their journey there and getting the chance to hear from some of the players on that team, from Axel Barbosa and Tucker Brodniks, just talking a little bit about that and how it's a dream come true. I would expect Toombs to be, I would expect them to have a big show out. And I mean, also same thing for Model too. I mean, you have 2 teams who are coming into this and it's their first ever title game in school history. I would anticipate, at least for that matchup, to see a huge support on both sides. For Fellowship and Mount Perrin, I think there's going to be some Mount Perrin folks that are going to make the journey up there. I mean, you have to. I mean, that's also the first time in history for them. It's their first one. And I think that one's going to be cool. I think Fellowship Christian has a huge fan base in itself with what they've been able to build up there too. Being state champions last year and then coming back in and being there once again. I think you're going to have that same support that you've had throughout the whole season with what they have. So I think you're going to see a big turnout for both these matches. I would anticipate it. I'm very excited to see how it turns out up there at Mercer.
Luke, when you look at what happened yesterday and compare it to today, for those that didn't get the chance to see what was going on, it turned into a bit of a long day for Atco, making it to the last match of the year. What was the vibe yesterday like at 5-star with those matches?
The vibe, wow, it was good. Especially the boys' game, the nightcap. We had big student sections, but the girls' game, you saw it was a very clear divide. You had right down the middle, green on one side, blue on the other, with Lake Oconee Academy, of course, showing out, being from the area. And overall, we saw good draws all around. But with the boys' game, especially at nighttime, we saw signs. We had the student section. We actually had to stop the game at one point because they had to radio up to the PA announcer, hey, you can't, have artificial noisemakers. I know you've heard this one before, John, at the games of, guys, I don't know how you got in with that, but you got to put them down, and just reminding fans of the rules. So we had that kind of an environment. We had a lot of crowd, and you might say, well, single A Division II, what's that going to draw? And it drew hundreds, and it was really, really a fun environment last night.
So, Luke, let me attach to that. Lake Oconee Academy, they didn't have far to run and chasing after a title there against Aquinas. Atkinson County, what they've been able to do on both the boys and the girls side in recent history, getting to the last matches of the year, making deep playoff runs. Bobby Jaworski and GMC Prep, we know what they're capable of, getting to the last match of the year. And then Aquinas and GMC Prep, getting the trophies and banners by the time we were done. You look at East Georgia, Middle Georgia, and Class A and the smaller classifications, and to see what it means to these programs when they win the last match of the year. I know that you and Maddie are going to see the same thing here later today down at 5-Star with the two matches that you're calling in Double A. But when you look at it, what does it mean from your perspective for these smaller classifications, these small towns, these small schools to make it and then come out the other side as champs? What was it like for you to see what it meant?
Always a really cool experience to get a look at, especially when the players we saw for GMC, for example, Cardi scored a couple of goals and I believe had the assist on the second goal as well. And as he's running around, when he scores, he's running straight to the student section and celebrating in front of them, reaching out, maybe shaking hands. And the way you see the community embrace these players and these teams is something that there may not be thousands of people in the stands, but it has that feeling. It has the gravity of this means everything to the people in this stadium at the moment. And just getting to watch it, getting to be the fly on the wall, getting to break it down as it happens is something that's really special because you're seeing the moment, you're seeing these unique character traits and the ways that people go about celebrating or accepting the big moments or the things that go wrong in games and how they do that with the people around them. So seeing that connection, always special at this level. Sometimes it even feels like it means a little more because everybody knows each other. It's tighter and it's a little more connected.
Maddie, what about from your perspective in all this?
I mean, I think you're going to, this is so cool. I feel like, I feel like state championships, whenever they do come, at least from when I was back in high school too. Mine's a little different though. I was
back in my day,
but also too, I wasn't playing like, okay, some of the theater people are going to get mad at me, but I wasn't really playing a sport really. Mine was theater, but I remember sitting there and being in that state championship and getting to like just almost represent what your school is. And I feel like that's really cool when you get to do that. I feel like a lot of these players, this is their first time to get to do it. And you're going to see a lot of just fun interactions, I think, with both the players and the fans. I feel like that's something to celebrate all together. And I'm really excited to get the chance to do my first one. I mean, I really like the matchups on both of these sides. I'm really excited for what we're going to see tonight up at Mercer.
And it gets to be a bit of a distraction for Maddie. We'll get to that in just a second. So, Luke, broadcast plans. Hit everybody. What's going on?
Yeah, broadcast plans. We are coming on the air at 4:58 today. Immediately following the national anthem, we'll go in and hit our open segment. We'll get Madison involved in the broadcast early and often, get her thoughts on the matchup. We'll take you into kickoff, have starting lineups for you. And then boys at 7:30, of course, 2A. That will be a heavyweight matchup. Programs traveling in, of course, Model from Rome and Toombs County, coming in as well here from Lyons, Georgia. So when you take a look at that matchup, we'll begin, if things go well with timing, knock on wood, hopefully, we'll see how that goes, but probably a 7:28 start for us, a couple minutes early so we can establish the matchup, get it going, get into our commentary, and then give you a good show. We're excited. If you can't make it down to 5-Star Stadium on the NFHS network, we'll have everything that you need for these games tonight.
Nicely done, Luke. Hit all of the talking points. All of the talking points. At Luke Winslow, at Madison.
He took the words out of my mouth. I don't have to say anything.
Well, no, but I got stuff to catch up with you here in a sec. Luke, we'll catch up with you tomorrow, and we'll catch up with Maddie tomorrow if she wants to hang out with us and let us know what's going on graduation day, unless she's like really busy or something. So, Luke, we'll catch up with you tomorrow, my friend, and have a good call. Maddie, hang out. I still have some more stuff to hang out with you with.
Let's do it.
All right. So, all right. For those, like I said, that may not know, the young Madison Cruz on the 1s and 2s is graduating tomorrow. And I mentioned it yesterday. And like I said, this will be the only chance that I get. I mean, are you going to be able to join us? When's graduation ceremony tomorrow?
Okay, so graduation tomorrow is going to be at 3. So I have to be there, I believe, at like 1. But I'm honestly tomorrow morning, I'm just kind of hanging out. So I might hop on the morning show a little bit just to hang out a little bit.
Okay. Might end up asking the same questions a little bit as we go.
Absolutely.
When it comes to today and then the morning show tomorrow. But has it sunk in yet that you are this close to graduating university, young lady?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I feel it's been funny. I think I was talking to Jason last night. I was like, it feels like with everything that how we've been doing the past like couple days, like it just doesn't feel real. Like it doesn't feel like it's actually coming up. And then I look at my calendar and I'm like, that's tomorrow. Um, but hey, I wouldn't have it any other way. It's hilarious. I'm telling like all my friends and stuff. I'm literally like I was covering the Open Cup yesterday. Now I'm covering 2 games for GHSA 2A, and I graduate. And so it's fun. I mean, it hasn't sunk in yet, but like I keep looking at my cap and gown that's just hanging over by my closet right now, and I'm like, that's soon.
Yes, that is true. It is soon. We as a collective, obviously, every aspect of SDH, you've run into it catching up with our plus ones, all of the folks that are watchers and listeners, and they get to finally see you in the flesh and actually see that you are in fact an individual, that you are a living, breathing organism. You have a lot of folks who are incredibly proud of what you have been able to do, A, at Kennesaw State, and B, keeping me and Nick and Jarrett and Jason in line in a very short period of time at SDH. So, I mean, it's we could not be more proud of everything that you have done, that you have become, and that you want to continue to be. And so seeing the graduation photos for us, at least for me anyway, and I'm sure for the rest of us, it kind of hit home for us a little bit. It's like, wow, she really is graduating soon. And did you get into any trouble for spilling the champagne on the front steps of the building on campus?
Well, I think I figured out that I completely forgot that Kennesaw is a dry campus. So me bringing the champagne on might not have been the best idea, but hey, it's graduation. I think everyone does it, and I feel like at some point they're just like, it's okay. But I mean, I didn't get in trouble. A couple teachers did walk by, didn't say anything. So hey, I think I got away with it.
Well, I mean, get away with is such it's a little better than that.
Yeah.
I mean, getting away with it makes it seem like you were doing something that you weren't supposed to do.
Yeah. I don't really think they care, honestly. I feel like, especially with like the photos, it's such like a niche thing to do when you're graduating. And so I feel like they're just like, well, graduation season. We're prepared for the whole campus to smell like champagne.
And and I can't wait to see how many photos actually have that. So is it indoors at the Convocation Center, or is it where is graduation?
Thank goodness it's indoors at the Convocation Center, because I don't know if I could handle the heat in the all black that is our cap and gown and the dress I am also wearing, because I think I would die of a heat stroke.
That's suboptimal. That is not desired.
That's not desirable, and we just really don't want that.
No.
But yeah.
Yeah, not advisable. Well, continue to prepare, because when are you heading down to 5 Star?
I'm headed down there. I'm meeting Luke down there around like 3:15, 3-ish. So that way we can kind of compare notes and get our stuff together, and then we'll be on the air and we're hanging out. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy that I got the chance to like do all the stuff I did do with y'all this semester as well. I think I learned a lot, and I'm excited to continue doing more, because the internship's over, I will still be here very often.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that folks may not necessarily, it hasn't sunk in. It's like, just because the internship's over, it doesn't mean that she's leaving.
Nah, you're stuck with me. I'm sorry. I don't know if that's like, some of y'all might be like, oh, dang. But like, I'm here. You're stuck with me.
Yeah. So yeah, she's kept us in line, and she's going to continue to do so. And so it's, Maddie's going to like get some lunch, put some lunch in her system, and then drive down to 5 Star, because she's got the matches tonight with Luke Winstel, and those will be fun ones. Once again, Fellowship Christian Mount Parent at 5:00 in AA girls, AA boys, Toombs County and Model. That one is coming up 30 minutes after the completion of the first one. In theory, it's 7:30, But if there's any added time or extra time or anything like that, it might be a little bit of a later night. But we'll catch up with Luke and Maddie tomorrow about it and find out what they found out about AA soccer and at Five Star Stadium at Mercer. NFHS Network at Madison Cruz on the ones and twos, at Madison Cruz 7 on the Twitters, at Luke Winstel on the Twitters, and they're going to have the call for the AA's. All right, so Maddie, get some stuff in your system and safe driving and safe travels and get down there and have good calls. We'll catch up with you tomorrow.
Absolutely. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
There you go. There's Maddie. And so Maddie's going to go and get ready for her broadcast. So once again, recapping what happened yesterday. It was on the Class A D2 side. That was at 5 Star. You end up with Aquinas knocking off the top-ranked team, Lake Oconee Academy. Left-hand side of the bracket beats the right-hand side. And then on the boys' side, GMC beats Atkinson County. Can't say enough about what has been built down there at Atco and what's been going on at Pearson and in the town of Pearson. And so a great season for Atco on both the boys and the girls' sides. And the boys made it to the last match of the year before losing to GMC Prep and head coach Bobby Jaworski. On Class A D1, once again, you got to catch up with Mateen. And Mateen had Paidea's win over Social Circle. Great run once again by Social Circle and Coach Richardson. And it's going to have one of the great talents heading to the NAIA and going up to Truett McConnell there in Greenville. So in Cleveland. Truett McConnell's in Cleveland. So Social Circle, Paideia girls win. Atlanta International School wins on the boys' side. And that is the rundown for Class A from yesterday. Today, once again, catching up with Maddie and Luke on the AA side. Triple A, it is at McEachern, Oconee County and Wesleyan. Girls, 5 o'clock, and it is the boys at 7:30. For those of you that might have missed it, you can catch up with the interview that we did last week with Coach Hamby at Oconee County. It was last Thursday, I believe. You can catch up with his early thoughts about how the season was for them and going up against Wesleyan. Wesleyan, the Wolves, tremendous offensive talent, and really looking forward to seeing how that translates. It's going to be Garrett Chapman on the call for those matches as a part of that broadcast crew with Gabe Schrei, and so it's going to be Gabe and Garrett for the matchups at McEachern, Oconee County, and Wesleyan. Wesleyan, if they have their way in the semifinals, the least number of goals they scored in their entire playoff run. So Coach Archer and the Wolves, they want to put the pedal down, get it to fifth gear as quickly as possible, put as many goals on the board as they can against Oconee County. Very, very stingy Oconee County squad with Coach Hamby. That one will be interesting. On the boys' side, Hebron Christian and Columbus. We caught up with Coach Torres yesterday. If you missed that particular interview on the network, caught up with him last Thursday, and we also caught up with him yesterday. And so you can catch up with him on those matchups at 7:30 or 30 minutes after the completion of what's going on with the girls on Oconee County and Wesleyan. So after that one, it is Hebron Christian and Columbus, Gabe and Garrett on the call for that one. And coming up in short order, it's going to be Jason and Jess doing Quad A girls and boys. And we'll catch up with Jason a day at a time, since Jason's going to be one of the busiest folks during this entire weekend run, or the weekly run, when it comes to the championship matches in the GHSA. Lovett North Oconee at 5 o'clock. This one's at Duluth High School. And then you end up with Johnson, Gainesville, and Westminster with our player of the year at SDH, Edgar Vasquez. Johnson, Gainesville, caught up with Coach Zamora last week and found out what it's been like for Johnson, Gainesville. We were there for the only blemish on their record this past season when they had the matchup with Dalton here on the network. And so you can go back and listen to that one to get you primed for the matchup around 7:30. Johnson, Gainesville, and Westminster. That one's going to be a real interesting matchup. Can Westminster contain Johnson, Gainesville? That's the big question that a lot of folks are going to have for Quad A boys tonight. Supposed to be 7:30 at Duluth High School. So I would go half hour after the completion of the first match. It would be Lovett North Oconee at 5. And then it would be Johnson, Gainesville, and Westminster at Duluth at 7:30, or half hour after the completion of the first match. And that'll get you through Wednesday. Thursday, once again, and this is the only day where you have 3 venues going simultaneously with Duluth, Five Star, and McEachern. Tomorrow, we'll have Brian Messer from McIntosh on at noon. He'll bat leadoff tomorrow to discuss what McIntosh has going up against them. For those of you that missed the conversation that we had with Derek Burgess, the head coach of Decatur, that happened an hour and a half into the morning show this morning. So you can go back and watch on Twitch. Show will be downloaded in just a little bit, and you can listen to it as a podcast coming up a little later on as well. But this morning on the morning show, it was Tyler Pilgrim, it was Dylan Butler, and it was Derek Burgess, the head coach at Decatur, going over their matchup and their win as a 4 seed. They have made it all the way through as a 4 seed, beating Cass at Cass and beating the Colonels in the semifinal on the right-hand side. So McIntosh makes it out of the left-hand side. Decatur makes it out of the right-hand side. Tomorrow on the Thursday, May 9, 5A girls and boys at Duluth, GAC in Cambridge. That one is with Jason and Jess. That one will be at Duluth High School at 5 o'clock, half hour after the completion of that one. McIntosh and Decatur, like I said, we'll have assistant head coach Brian Messner on. That will be a half hour after the completion of GAC in Cambridge, the boys side at 5A. Thursday on the 6A side of things at McEachern, girls match up at 5 o'clock, Roswell and Marist, then half hour after the completion. 7:30, it'll be the boys side, Sprayberry and River Ridge, 2 top 5 ranked nationally, squaring off in the final for 6A. Jarrett Smith will be on the call for those matchups in 6A. 7A is your only matchups on Friday. And once again, all this stuff is weather permitting, because we've seen, and for those of you that are married to the Weather Channel this time of year, especially working your way through all of it, weather could be a little dicey tomorrow. So we'll see what happens tomorrow when it comes to the weather, how that impacts the schedule. We'll find out. But Friday on the 10th, 7A girls and boys are supposed to be the only thing happening. 7A, it is girls at 5 o'clock, Buford and West Forsyth. That is 1 versus 2. And we've had West Forsyth on our air at SDH, and we got to catch up with them and find out what Coach Galt has on his mind. And we'll try and see if we can catch up with Coach Galt for the Thursday show or the Friday show, and see where Coach Galt is when it comes to what his schedule looks like and what it's been like to prepare for Buford. Half hour after the completion of that one, or 7:30. Campbell and Kennesaw Mountain in 7A, and that one's a bit of a surprise. Campbell and Kennesaw Mountain have made it through, and I don't know how many folks had Campbell and Kennesaw Mountain in their brackets in 7A for Friday, 5.5 hours after the completion. That's Jason and Justin. We'll catch up with Jason taking it a class at a time as we go here. But as promised, it is Jason hanging out. Jason's in the office, and there he is. And so let's take it a day at a time. When you looked at the results from yesterday, Class A D1 and Class A D2, what stuck in your mind from those results?
I was a little surprised at Social Circle and the scoreline in that one. It's always hard to gauge, especially the smaller the schools, when they play teams from outside their region and what that looks like. Social Circle is a team that I've seen a few times over the years, and I thought that would be a more competitive game. That was the biggest one that jumped out to me last night.
Paideia tried to go for the daily double. They got 1 of 2. And it was that matchup against Social Circle where the girls get the win. The boys lose to Atlanta International in the nightcap at McEachern. On the other side, Aquinas and Lake Oconee Academy. Lake Oconee Academy out of the right-hand side, top-ranked team. They come through, and Aquinas gets the win on the left-hand side, coming out of the left-hand side for Class A D2 on the girls' side. And then Atco, Atkinson County, and GMC Prep, Bobby Jaworski gets the win for GMC Prep in the nightcap at 5-star.
Yeah, not shocked on those. I think what we're finding in general, and that Social Circle Paideia game is the outlier. As the tournaments have gone on, whatever the classification, whatever the level we're talking about, the games have gotten tighter. Now, that one is an outlier. I think one of the teams that we're going to see tonight has been an outlier in their recent games. Lovett on the girls' side. They've been winning big, deep into the tournament. I mean, teams like McIntosh that we'll see tomorrow that they haven't lost this season, they've had close games as the tournament has gone on. Johnson, another one of the top teams in the state on the boys' side, they've had close games as the tournament has gone on. 7A boys has been completely upended. West Forsyth, we saw them on the girls' side in 7A. Close games as the tournament has gone on. I'm fascinated by this game that I'm going to call tonight, our first one, Lovett and North Oconee. North Oconee is one of those teams that has just battled and battled and battled, and they've gotten to this point. They've had a ton of injuries this year, and they are probably about as healthy as they have been, but they're running into a buzzsaw in Lovett. I mean, Lovett's 20-0, 148 goals this season. That's an insane number. And they've only conceded 7. And they've been winning big games lately. They've been winning games by big margins lately. So as gritty and tough as North Oconee is, they come in as an underdog here because Lovett is just that good. And can they do it again after, I think off the top of my head, 7-0 in the semifinal? I mean, can they win another monster game like that? And then the flip side, the question is, and this is what happens with teams that win games big on a regular basis, what happens if it's tight? Can they handle it? They haven't really been tested like that, whereas North Oconee absolutely has. That's the way that they've had to live with their, at times, makeshift lineups. So if that game's tight through a half, how does Lovett handle that? Because they really haven't been tested this year.
Doing the math quickly for
It's
Lovett.
dangerous for you, John.
It is. 7.4 goals scored on average per match this season.
That's absurd. I mean, that's video game numbers. It's absurd. You know, can they do that one more time in the final? You'd have to expect that they are the favorite, maybe one of the best girls high school teams that we've seen. And this is a year after Chambly's 5A title last year, where that team was a powerhouse. Lovett's a little different. It's a little more spread out. You had a few players with Chambly last year in 5A that were just the elite of the absolute elite. When you have players going on to playing in World Cups not long after winning a state championship, that's not typical. Lovett, it's a little more spread out. I mean, you know, getting to know this team, Ridley Newton's got 20 goals. Caitlin Nixon's got 25. Mason Bosworth's got 22. Mary Camp Newton's got 17. So it's very well spread between a number of players. They're the best team. They beat Cherokee Bluff 7-0. And for example, North Oconee, one of their losses this season at 14-4-1 was to Cherokee Bluff 5-1. So you hear that and you kind of look at this game and you're like, whoa, what happens here? But I really believe that if North Oconee can keep it tight, you know, you see this with underdogs. The longer they keep it close, the more they grow in confidence. And the question that we just don't have an answer to because they haven't been tested all year, North Oconee gains in confidence. How does Lovett handle that? How can they handle a close game? Because they haven't been in one many times this year, if at all.
7.4 goals scored on average per match. And they've only allowed 7 goals all season. You want to talk video game numbers? 7.4 scored and only 7 allowed. That is insanity that I've never seen.
It's insane. And we'll see if they can do it again. They come in as a big favorite against North Oconee, but North Oconee has been one of those teams. You know, the seniors in this North Oconee group won the title as freshmen. Ava Caldwell had the winner in that. She's been back from injuries. The only 2 games that she's played a full 80 minutes in were the quarterfinal and the semifinal. So I think with North Oconee, we haven't seen what maybe they thought they would be. We haven't seen that this season consistently. Can they find it in a final situation? You know, they have players who have been here and done that. They have players who have been part of teams that have run deep into the tournament but haven't won the title. They're looking for their second. They're going to have to play almost the perfect game against Lovett tonight.
What are folks missing out on by not seeing a Johnson-Gainesville match this season?
The best player in the state. And it still drives me insane that he is not being recognized as such. Edgar Vasquez is the most complete player in the state. Johnson has won back-to-back state titles. They beat Westminster last year 4-2. Westminster gets another crack at him here. I think it's just the way that Frank Zamora sets his team up to play, and we've seen Jorge Sandoval in the past. We've seen different varieties of the way that they play, but he creates a strong base for his then creative players to go and play their game. Sandoval and Vasquez had a lot of similarities in that they're guys who can take over games. And in high school, where you just don't have the time to dig super deep into the tactical side, and I think we see sometimes coaches maybe try to do too much on the tactical side. You just don't have time. You can't do that. These are essentially like national teams when you think about it, because these players are playing club on a regular basis, and for the most part, and you have 2 games a week, sometimes more. You don't have time on the training pitch to create the layers of fullbacks tucking inside into the midfield and doing this and doing that, especially if those players don't do that at the club level. So you've got to be smart and know what you can do and what you can't do. And I think what Johnson has done to me, seeing them since 2018 when they won their first state title, they are very well organized. And this is a compliment to Frank Zamora. They don't overcomplicate the game. They look for, going back to positional play and the idea of it. And again, you can't go super deep into it. You can't add layer after layer. But the idea of positional play is very simple at its heart. Put your best players in positions to win their 1v1s. If you can create 2v1s, even better. If you can create 3v2s, even better. But at the heart of positional play, you got a player like Edgar Vasquez, you put him in positions to have a 1v1 to win the game, period. And that's what Johnson does consistently. And for Vasquez, it's not purely on him. We've seen Daniel Trujillo step up. He had the game-winning goal in the semifinal against Northwest Whitfield. Junior Castillo, he's actually got 19 goals this year. He's the leading scorer on the Knights this season, an all-region player. He'll be back next year. He's only a sophomore. There's other guys. Andres Galicia plays in the back. We saw him play in the midfield last year. Zamora can move the pieces around in this team, but at its heart, it is about getting his best players in positions to go win games. And that's what he has done consistently. And in my opinion, the best player on the boys' side this season is Edgar Vasquez. And when you have that in your bag, you have an advantage against pretty much anybody. Westminster's going to put that to the test, though. And last year's final is going to sit with those Wildcats, and they're going to want to get some revenge. Johnson's only lost 1 game since then. That was to Dalton back earlier this season. This is a really good Johnson team that Westminster is going to have to find another level to get past.
You mentioned that loss. In that loss, Johnson Gainesville has an upperclassman goalkeeper injured. Then you have a 9th grader in Benjamin Villatoro come in, and he has grabbed that role as a starter, embraced it, and has not let it go as a 9th grader helping out Johnson Gainesville this year.
5 saves in the semifinal. And I feel like every time that I saw them, I didn't see that game against Dalton. Saw them against the Baylor School of Chattanooga and then against Gainesville. Every game, Villatoro just looked more and more confident and more composed. And I think now he's kind of got the trust of the team in front of him. You know, there's a lot of underclassmen with this Johnson team, but Vasquez and Galicia, the 2 guys headed to North Georgia D2 in the Peach Belt next year, those are going to be big losses for this Johnson team. But when you have guys like Villatoro, and I mentioned Junior Castillo as freshmen and sophomores, the Knights aren't going anywhere no matter what happens tonight.
Broadcast plans with you and Jessica Charman.
5 o'clock on NFHS for 4A girls. Love it at 20-0 facing North Oconee at 14-4-1. 7:30 Johnson at 18-1-1 facing Westminster at 16-4-2. Kind of on that boys game, it's a 7:30 kick on NFHS. it's kind of two different varieties of blue bloods. Johnson is a very recent blue blood. 4 straight finals. They won their first title in 18. They've won back-to-back over the past 2 years. They're trying to go 3 in a row. That doesn't happen very often in Georgia high school history. Westminster's the first blue blood. They won the first state title going back to 1966, and they've won a whole slew of them ever since. So it's kind of the dream final in 4A on the boys' side, and the fact that it's a rematch from last year just gives it that little bit of extra spice to it.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to your call, and it's going to be Luke and Maddie. We caught up with them earlier in the show doing the activity down in Macon, and it's Gabe and Garrett at doing the AAAs, I believe, at McEachern with Coney County Wesleyan, Hebron Christian, and Columbus. It's a stacked day with 3 venues.
Yeah, the 2 storylines in the other 2 venues that I'll be keeping an eye on as I'm up in Duluth. That model Toombs County game will be a fun one between 2 teams in their first ever final. Looking forward to that in 2A boys, and Oconee County in 3A girls. You know, North Oconee's in 4A. Oconee County, that's a really good rivalry. 2 teams in different classifications right now, and Oconee County trying to go back-to-back.
Really looking forward to a very, very busy day. Go get some lunch, safe travels, have great calls, and we'll catch up with you on the flip side tomorrow.
Looking forward to it. Get your NFHS subscription ready to go. Multiple devices. You can watch all the games tonight.
All the devices right there.
All the devices.
All the devices. Be safe, my friend.
Adios.
All right. So that's Jason. So Jason is out the door. He's going to go have lunch, and he's going to go to Duluth. So once again, today, here's your plans. It is at Mercer, Luke and Maddie, Fellowship Christian, Mount Perrin Christian, followed by Toombs County and Model, AA. AAA, Gabe and Garrett, Gabriel Schrei, Garrett Chapman. AAA at McEachern, Oconee County Wesleyan, Hebron Christian, and Columbus. Jason, you just caught up with him, Jason and Jess. It's going to be Leavitt, North Oconee, Johnson, Gainesville, and Westminster. Thanks to all the voices that are calling the games today. We'll catch up with some of them tomorrow. We'll catch up with Luke and Maddie, distract Maddie from graduation. And we will also catch up with Jason tomorrow, as well as we get you ready for 5A and 6A on your Thursday. Brian Messer, assistant head coach from McIntosh, is going to bat leadoff with us tomorrow at noon, and we'll see what else is going on your Thursday. So that's another go-round of Soccer's in Session Live, presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente at KP Georgia on the 280-character app. Kaiser Permanente, for all that is you. For everybody here on the show, everybody here at SDH, thanks for coming on. Thanks for hanging on with us and learning about Finals Wednesday with the official GHSA activity in the beautiful game. So for everybody here to everybody there, thanks for dropping by. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning with the morning show, 9:05 on the SDH network. Tonight on the SDH Mixlr app, it is Atlanta United 2 and Carolina Core. Pregame show to lead you into a 7:30 kick, a 7:33 kick. So pregame show about 7:15 on the network at soccerdownhere.mixlr.com. So for everybody here, thanks for hanging out. We'll see you later tonight with the twos. Back at it again with Soccer's morning show at 9:05 Eastern time. Play it safe, everybody. Mucha plati y'all. And since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. See you later.